Can you hear that? Okay, good. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Nishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare Jaya Radha Nandaneshwar Radha Nandaneshwar Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Nandaneshwar Radha Nandaneshwar Shri Radhe Jaya Prabhupada 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 Shri Radhanandeshwara ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So a warm welcome to all of you for today's session, session number 2. And I hope you are enjoying the start of the Kartik month. Very auspicious month during which to do any spiritual activity, especially reading scripture. As we know, one of the 5 most potent forms of service. Actually, you would find that out during Bhakti Sastri, Nectar of Devotion, is to reside in Mathura, one of them, and another is to read Srimad Bhagavatam. So scripture in general is extremely important and potent, and especially in this month, because it's Krishna's own month, Srimati Radharani's own month, they give extra special mercy to the sincere seeker. So in that mood, we can seek their special blessings as well, and try to delve into this great conversation of Krishna's. This is Krishna's conversation, the song of God. So if you can follow me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chukshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Hare Krishna. So I would like to ask if any of you had spent some time going through chapter 1, reading, revising, preparing some points. Maybe what we can do is, before we jump into chapter 2, I'd like to see if you have any questions from chapter 1. We're going to revise a little chapter 1 as well. But as part of your own studies, is there anything you would like to raise or ask at this point based on last week's lesson, the last 2 weeks ago's lesson? Okay. So we will jump into it. So chapter 1 was entitled Observing the Armies. And as I mentioned during that lesson, the last lesson, that during this chapter, Arjun speaks a lot. He basically gives Krishna a lecture once the initial setting the scene items are complete. And basically Arjun develops his stance into a state of, you could say, disempowerment and depression, because he's overwhelmed at seeing the consequences of his actions, the potential consequences of his imminent actions. And he becomes overwhelmed, despondent. But there are a number of driving motivations for Arjun in what he says. And there is an entire development that he undertakes. So I thought I would just present to you, first of all, a sort of a little bit of an analysis of Krishna's, Arjun's reasons. Okay, Arjun comes up with many, many reasons in this. Just give me one moment. I'm just going to make sure this thing, right, on the wrong menu here. Okay, good. Yes, that's fine. Okay, good. So let's just get this shared and then we'll see how this works. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, I think you may need to fix that. And it would be good if we could have everyone's cameras on, then it can be like we're together in a classroom. But if our host is there, are you there, host?
Yes.
Okay, if you can enable that sharing option for me.
Yeah, 1 second.
Ah, okay. I think something has happened here. Right, let's try and do this. Screen, actually, that's what I want to show. Okay, can you see that slide there? Okay, it might look a bit confusing at the moment. There's only headings on that slide. Arjun's analysis, destruction of dynasty, and then something later coming, which is 6 aggressors. So Arjun started off his lecture, if you like. Can anyone identify the verse in chapter 1 from which he speaks of destruction of dynasty?
Is it verses beginning with verse 31 and then it goes through verse 32 to 35?
That's right. That's right. 31. Well, it's not specifically, it's a bit later. Sorry, wrong, there we go, 1 second. It's a bit later than that, actually, a few verses later. Destruction of dynasty, word dynasty comes in specific verse. Well,
39.
39, that's right. Yes, with the destruction of dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. And this is all coming because Arjun sees that as a consequence of his actions, he will now be the cause of broken families. The warriors in huge numbers of families will all be killed, leaving the rest of their families, the women, the children, elderly people, unprotected. And therefore, the start of a sequence of degradation is likely to begin. And so he speaks of destruction of dynasty. When dynasty is destroyed, a whole sequence he identified. He identified that family tradition is vanquished. And what happens when family tradition is vanquished is that irreligious activities start to become prominent. Isn't it when you have, if there is bad association or the standard wholesome structure of a senior person's direction is suddenly removed, there's a likelihood of degradation and irreligious activities creeping in. And then as a result of irreligious activities, women become exploited by unscrupulous persons. They themselves become degraded due to lack of sufficient protection from their husband, who's now gone. And as a result, unwanted progeny comes. Children who might be biologically fine, But in terms of sanskar and adhikar, there's a problem, because these are not souls that have been attracted into a wholesome situation. So therefore that's termed unwanted progeny. And specifically unwanted progeny, maybe the word unwanted it's a little bit strong, I think, maybe a bit harsh even. But the actual term used is varna sankara. Persons who are mixed up. Persons who basically don't know what they're supposed to be doing and what they shouldn't be doing in terms of specifically their varnas, their occupations, their duties in life. And therefore they simply make it up as they go along and speculate and then cause great harm to themselves and to others. That's really why the term unwanted progeny comes in. And the consequence of that is that the offerings made by the youngsters, the younger generations, for the benefit of the senior ones, the pindadan, and those offerings that are made for the benefit of the forefathers, they stop. Because now the family has no knowledge that they should do these things and no understanding of the benefit for them. And I think last time we discussed this, I remember Mazar, you asked a question, I think, on this, about how we can do this as Vaishnavas today. And yes, the principle applies to us also, that we should seek the welfare of our ancestors, and we should try to do something for them. And in a simple way, to actually become Krishna conscious and a devotee of Krishna is literally the best thing we can do for anyone in this world. Whoever we love, whoever we care for, the best thing we can do is to reconnect ourselves to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Because then by his mercy, anyone dear to him, he protects anyone dear to that person too. That's a very special feature of Krishna. So we always say that, yes, literally the best thing you can do for anyone is to actually become a good devotee of Krishna. If this doesn't happen, then the sequence continues as you're on your screen. Unwanted progeny. Let me try this laser pointer. Does this work? Can you see that? Oh yeah, the pointer is there. Okay, good. Ancestors fall down. And there is an entire end. Simultaneously, this all happens to projects and welfare acts. Because everyone's life is not meant to be just for earning money to maintain their own sense gratification. There are other things that we do in life that make actually the world worth living in. Acts of charity, trying to build a better world, do better things for other generations. These give some meaning or value to a standard person's life. And it's important, whether one is a devotee or not, that this aspect of kindness is there. Therefore, welfare acts and community projects were all referred to. This is Arjun's analysis, right? But it's based upon a few misconceptions. It sounds very nice. But I want to emphasize, maybe I'll take you just to a couple of verses in this Gita. Text 38. One moment to open up the right. Text 38. Sorry. 38. Sorry, 28. We go to text 28 and look at the purport. Prabhupada speaks in the beginning. He says, anyone who has good qualities which are found in godly persons feel some compassion. And Arjuna was overwhelmed with compassion for his friends, the kinsmen. And Prabhupada says towards the last bit of the first paragraph, he says, although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjun's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjun were not due to weakness, but due to his soft-heartedness. a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. And then Prabhupada quotes this verse, which is very, very important. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha harao abhaktasya kuto mahat guna manorathe nasati dhavato bihi. That all the desirable qualities that are possessed by the demigods, kindness, magnanimity, strength, and all of these things, they come automatically to a person who has developed unalloyed love for Krishna. Often in the world, we try to uncover them or develop them independently. We may go on a self-help course or learn this or that. But for a devotee, when they engage in serious devotional service, they very quickly develop these qualities personally. So it allows us to focus on devotional service being the priority in our lives. But the point here that I wanted to emphasize is that Prabhupada's analysis that a pure devotee of the Lord naturally feels compassion for others. And then also, there's another place. I'm just going to try and find it. Right, text 46, the very last verse. Tanay, could you read the purport for that, please?
Text 46, yeah?
Yeah.
While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge.
So we go a step further, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, Prabhupada almost indicates now that this compassion is a prerequisite for someone to receive transcendental knowledge from the Lord. These are very interesting points. And I think everyone is happy with these points, that compassionate nature, kindness towards others, these are items very much connected with godly behavior. Nagesh, have your hand up?
Yeah. Bhuvanesh Prabhu is messaging me asking you to let him in the class, please.
Oh, who's handling this?
Because I think you're the
Oh, I
host, so
see.
yeah.
Okay, give me one moment. How do I do that? Participants. I'll tell you what, can't we just switch off the meeting room? Oh, right. Okay, well, let me admit him at least. I've done that. I can't disable the waiting room. I think someone's done that.
If you became the host, because otherwise, if you won't be able to share the screen.
Yes, yes. But I still, that option is grayed out actually, where I can actually switch off the waiting room. It's actually, yeah, permanently set. I can't disable it. So anyway, okay, let me do one thing. Actually, even half the options are missing, so it's okay. Let's just see how it goes. Just let me know if someone else is trying to get in, because I won't necessarily know that. I'll be trying to deliver the class, not looking at the waiting room. So let's, okay, so we touched on this point, that this compassion of Arjun is being described here by Prabhupada as a good quality to have. And it's often a little kindness is often what attracts someone towards God. It's often in spiritual life, right? People who are drawn towards God have a tendency or have developed a tendency for appreciating kindness and compassion. Okay. So In chapter 2, sorry, or was it in chapter 1? We'll just go to text 36 quickly. Just want to remind yourself of one point that was made here. Aggressors. Right. And okay. And now on your screen, you should have a summary of what's in that purport. Okay, 6 types of aggressors that should be killed. And does that all make sense so far? We read that last time. That if we slay these aggressors, then sin will overcome us. Now, the purport says something interesting. It speaks of 6 types of aggressors who should not really be spared, but they should be killed. Very interesting, right? According to the Vedic systems, here are the types of people that can legitimately be killed. One who gives poison, one who sets fire, one who attacks with weapons, steals, plunders riches, occupies another's land, kidnaps wife. Now, does any of that, in context with the Mahabharata episodes, spring to mind? Does any thoughts come regarding these points?
Yeah, the House of Lac with the fire, setting of the fire.
Yes, yes, the House of Lac with fire, poison.
Duryodhana, I think, did give poison to Bhima when they were young.
Yes, he tried to kill him, right? And then Bhima went into the water and somehow survived and came up and yes, attacks with deadly weapons. Well, that's due to come now in the Battle of Kurukshetra. That's about to happen. Plunders riches. Has this happened so far? It has, right? The gambling match was a deceitful trickery from Shakuni and Duryodhan to steal riches of the Pandavas, which were legitimately earned. Occupies another's land. Yes.
The humiliation of Draupadi, could that come under 5? Kidnaps wife?
Yes, that will come on. Actually, that should be 6 here. You can see I've got number 2 done twice, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, basically kidnaps wife, but occupies another's land.
I think that's the kingdom of the Pandavas that was occupied, and as a reason of that dice game, Indraprastha.
Yes.
Anyway, they occupied that as a wicked and treacherous way.
So they did that. Now that could be part of the plunder's riches, but then there's something else they did after that, which is that when the exile was over, they refused to give it back. Right? If you could say it was okay before because it had gone through a process and they had legitimately lost the kingdom, that's one thing. But I mean, of course, that's not a very good reason, but you could potentially excuse that reason. But now this one, that now that the exile, all the terms are finished and they're refusing to hand it back, what should one do? So you can see actually these 6 aggressors have all 6 aggressions have all happened. Yet Arjuna is saying we should not slay the aggressors. Sin will overcome us. So now we're basically setting the scene with this particular slide that will allow us, or allow Krishna now to pick apart some of Arjuna's arguments and give him a more sober understanding on the topic. Okay, so you can summarize some of the things Arjuna has said. And they fall into 5 broad categories. Compassion, we've just touched on that, right? Compassion. Enjoyment. How can we enjoy if all those we are close to and dear to are dead? Enjoyment requires, everyone to be happy together. How can you enjoy? Destruction of family, we spoke about that. Fear of sinful reaction, we just spoke about that, just this last verse in terms of killing aggressors. These are the reasons Arjun comes up with. And then at the start of chapter 2, this solidifies and condenses into something called indecision in a very substantial way. So let's kick off our study of chapter 2 with reading just the first few verses of chapter 2. Is everyone with me so far? Are we all okay? Right. So if we can go to text 1. I'll give you a sequence and you can just follow that when I ask you next. So Mazar, then Tanay, then Vidisha, then Simon. Okay. Then we'll go back to the beginning. So if you could start, please, with number 1.
All right. With Sanskrit text or English?
I think English is enough. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke the following words.
This is a picture of Arjun, mighty warrior, sitting down, tears in his eyes, as a battle is about to begin. Right, that's the scene you have. Text 2, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They're not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy."
Far from sympathizing with Arjun and saying, dear Arjun, you're such a kind, compassionate person, Krishna says to him, how is it that you have become so contaminated? How's that for a chastisement? Just immediately. How is it? It's shameful. This does not suit you. If you know the value of life, you wouldn't speak like this. Krishna says to Arjun. Text 3.
O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading importance. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, a chastiser of the enemy.
Right. Now, just a little detail. Do you know what the name Pritha means?
Kunti Mataji.
Kunti. And why is that referring to Kunti Mataji?
Prabhu, I'm ignorant of that. I know that she's called as Pritha.
She's not called Pritha.
I mean, like,
yes, she is.
Yeah, but but I don't know the reason. I'm ignorant of that, Prabhu. Sorry.
Actually, no, it's okay. There doesn't have to be a reason for this. The next bit I was going to say needs the reason. So, Pritha is a name of Queen Kunti, right? And therefore, Arjun is frequently referred to as Partha. That's the bit I wanted to emphasize, right? So, one who comes from Pritha is Partha. It's just from the terminology. And what's very interesting in our in the Gita and actually throughout scriptures, many times the person is addressed invoking some other significant person.
Yes.
It's very significant that Krishna is thinking of Queen Kunti. By using that, he could have just called him, hey Arjun, my friend Arjun. He could have just said that. But he said, no, O son of Pritha. He's saying, you are the son of the noble Queen Kunti. It's time for you to get yourself together. Be a fitting son of Queen Kunti. So he's glorifying Queen Kunti just by mentioning her in this section. And there's more of a description there in the purport. But these little details, I'll point these out as we go through. Give up such petty weakness of heart. What is the word that's used? Kshudram hridaya dorbalyam. Tyaktva utishta parantapa. Some very interesting terms. Kshudram means one who laments, right? A Shudra as the petty. A Shudra, as we discussed in Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, is also due to having a nature of lamentation, right? One who doesn't quite get it together. One who doesn't know how things are supposed to be. Weakness. Now, it's not talking about physical weakness here. The Shudras can be quite strong. In fact, they are the laborers in society and they physically are strong. But they have a weakness of character, which leads them to do a few things. It leads them to engage in sense gratification very extensively, to the extent possible for them. Any surplus funds they have will always be spent on sense gratification because of a lack of discipline. And the way to regulate that in society is that they are expected to practice obedience to either the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, or the Brahmanas. And that way they become regulated, and their propensity for sinful acts, which comes from this sort of pettiness, that is reduced. So these are two slightly different words, Kshudram and Shudra, but they're often in descriptions and explanations connected together. There is this weakness, lamentation, a culture of blaming someone else, which is prevalent in that particular group of people. But Arjun is not of that group of people, neither in lineage nor in training. He has an exalted lineage with exceptional education and values and morals which have been given to him. And he's now expected to behave according to that. Text 4, please.
Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship?
Yes, now Bhishma and Drona, who are they? They are superiors. Dronacharya was the one who Arjun learnt the art of weaponry from, specifically shooting arrows, right? Bow fighting. He learnt that from Dronacharya and so many other things. And Bhishma Dev is, of course, their grandsire, who they all learnt so much from, right from when they were young. And the question is, how can I attack these people? How can I kill these people? They are my worshipful superiors, and they're actually worthy of my worship. How is this possible? Text 5. Guhanesh, would you like to read that?
Yes, Prabhu. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
Yes. Better to give up my Kshatriya ideology, better to give up my Kshatriya dharma and to just live as a beggar. Because what is the point? I don't want to live and enjoy a place when it's come at the cost of my senior's blood. That's a very substantial state for Arjun to be in now. What is the point? Everything we killed will be tainted with blood. Punjiya Bhogan Rudira Pradiktan. It'll be tainted red with blood. And is that what you want? You know, in today's world, we sometimes speak of blood money, right? And there's been a whole fashion in the last maybe a decade or 2 decades to, you know, for institutions, sometimes universities have been sponsored by, you know, persons whose character has not always been great. And maybe they were involved in slavery and some other things. And there's been a whole cultural thing to try to reject those persons because their money has been tainted with blood, right? It's not come from bona fide methods. So Arjun is following the same kind of argument. What is the use of the world if it comes at the expense of those that we love dearly, that we have now killed to get this. Text 6. Mazhar, back to you.
Sorry. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
I don't know what to do. Actually, rather than live as a beggar, maybe I should be killed by them. Maybe I should just stand here, let them kill me. Or maybe I should kill them. Which is better? Complete confusion. This is the last point that's on your screen. Indecision. His analysis, which has now gone on for several tens of verses, has resulted in this situation. Complete confusion and indecision. I do not know what to do. But in text 7, which is coming next, a very, very important situation and development takes place. Can you read text 7, please? Actually, if you can do the Sanskrit as well.
Karpanya doshapahata svabhavah prachami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yachat yachreyah shan nishchatam bruhitan me shishyate ham sadhi mamatvam prapannam. Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of the miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
This is a very, very significant development. Up until this point, Arjun has been giving Krishna his explanation on life, the universe, and everything, right? In much the same way as most people that we may meet on the streets during the marathon distributing books or something, they will have their own very strong ideas, angles, views of the world, the way they do things. And even if God is standing in front of them, they will give God a lecture. But Arjun has realized that all my analysis, all my thinking, all my so-called scholarly methods of analysis have simply led me to this point of complete confusion. And what does he do? He says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Just prior to that point, Karpanya dosho. Let's get that pointer back again. Karpanya dosho. What does it say here? Kripana, right? A Kripana is one who is called a miserly person. Miserly in terms of course, in conventional terms, the word miser means one who never gives any of their money away. It's very miserly. And here is someone who is very miserly towards the bigger problems of life. And they kind of approach them with a very meager way, without proper thinking, without a proper generous spirit of trying to solve something. But a very clear solution is identified here. And the solution is to approach someone for advice. Approach a spiritual master specifically. Arjun has said, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I surrender, prapannam, right? Shishya steham. I am your Shishya, I'm your student. Please instruct me. This is very significant because until this point, it doesn't matter what Krishna speaks, or it doesn't matter what elaborate explanations Krishna might give. None of it will be of any use because the person's ears are closed. Person's heart is closed. If the person is thinking, I know everything, or my angle on the world is correct, what will it matter what you say to them? I'm sure in your life you've encountered many people like that. It's like possibly talking to a brick wall sometimes. Whatever you're saying is simply not going in, even at a superficial level of contemplation. Why? Because they couldn't care less. They have no ability to actually take on board a different opinion to theirs. But this is extremely necessary for someone to progress. Therefore, this is a fundamentally important verse. We will refer to this many times. In fact, coming up in chapter 4, we will have another verse. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tatpadarshina. Right? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipat means surrender. Right? Similar to the mood of this particular verse 7. One should approach a bona fide spiritual master, surrender to them, render them service, and ask them questions. Those things are needed for any progress to take place. Now that we've reached this stage with Arjun, hopefully we can appreciate that something substantial is going to develop now. Okay? Something substantial, hopefully, will develop. So, text 9, we don't need to read text 8, but text 9. Next person, can you read text 9?
Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent.
Fell silent. Total despondency. I don't know what to do, except he's now at the stage of Krishna, tell me. Krishna, tell me. You know what Krishna did in text 10? He smiled. He smiled at Krishna. Why do you think he smiled at Krishna? Smiled at Krishna because
Friend is written.
finally Krishna is thinking, okay, finally we're making progress now. Now we can get somewhere. Just give me one moment. I'm trying to just locate my yeah. Oh yes, yes. Prahasaniva Bharata, right? One who is laughing, Hasan, right? He was laughing. But in a very short while, there's going to be a change that Arjuna is going to notice. And Krishna may stop smiling quite soon because he will adopt the grave duty of a teacher. Now, Krishna has got some work to do. Okay? He has got some work to do. If you want to summarize Krishna's, the problems Krishna has to deal with now, these are the misconceptions he has to deal with: compassion, enjoyment, sinful reactions, destruction of the dynasty leading to indecision. The same content we've discussed so far. He has to deal with all of this. Krishna gets started. Gets started with text 11. Can someone read text 11, please? Actually, you can read the Sanskrit for this. I think these are all memorization verses that will be key for your growth.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashuchan Anvashuchastvam Prajna Vadam Cha Bahashyase Gatasun Agatashumscha Nanushchanti Panditaha. The Supreme
Right.
Personality of
Sorry, Karen.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
Well, I mean, Krishna's really gone one step further. Initially, he said, Arjun, you're not a fit son of Kunti Maharani, right? Start behaving like her son. And Arjun couldn't do anything about it. He was lost. But Krishna doesn't give up. He tells Arjun, basically, he says to him, you are a fool. And how does he say it in so many words? He says, Ashochan, right? If you go through the Sanskrit for this, you'll get some good insights. Ashochan, one who is in lamentation, right? Pragyavadams, your words, you're speaking big words. Chabhasha say, you're speaking like a big learned man. Pragyavadams. Gatasun agatasumscha nanu shochanti pandita. But however, Arjun, you need to know something. That a pandit does not do this sochanti like you are doing. A learned person does not speak in the way you are speaking. Now, imagine this is a counseling session about to take place now. And imagine in a contemporary sense, you go to see your therapist or your counselor, and you say to them, I'm feeling totally depressed. And the first reply of the counselor is, stop being such a fool. You might not pay the bill at the end of it, but it actually might be what you need to hear. And this is exactly where Arjun is going to realize he's picked a formidable guru, and he's going to appreciate very quickly just how superb this particular guru happens to be. But this particular guru is not going to pander to any feelings of niceties. He's not going to just mollycoddle Arjun and say, there, Arjun, it's all right, just relax for a bit. Don't worry, we'll fight another day if you want. No, not getting any of that kind of sympathy from Krishna. Krishna's saying, stop talking like a fool. On the picture, you may see you've got this arrow there, right? You've got this axe. This is one of the definitions or responsibilities of the guru. Jnana asina, with the sword of knowledge. The guru is meant to cut through the nonsense of the disciple. The sword of knowledge. In fact, the sword is used in many ways. Asina. There's the it's used in many ways. The sword of knowledge here is very apt. In a much deeper sense, if you bring the whole perspective of the situation, this analogy makes sense, because it's understood that as a result of our journey through this world over lifetimes, we have built up in our heart, in our consciousness, a tangled knot of misconceptions, false ideas, prospects for enjoyment, unfulfilled wishes, hankerings, prospects for the future, right? Just think about those. We've all got them in our minds, right? At least from this one life. Now imagine your consciousness being what it is, having developed like this over lifetimes. That is described as a hridaya granthi, a very, very tangled knot that you simply cannot untangle easily. Therefore, there's only one way to deal with a particularly tangled knot. You have to cut it with the sword of knowledge. With actual knowledge, you start knocking this knot to pieces. Even if it is a tight knot, if you've got the right blade, you can cut it. And that's what the guru is supposed to do. Not get into untangling it slowly, one thread at a time. Guru cannot, there's no time to do that. Because the Shastras also explain that where this knot arose from, how we got to our present state of karma, which this knot represents, No one can ascertain it, the beginning of it, nor the journey of it. Don't waste your time. Just chop it to pieces. That's what's needed. But to do that, you have to first surrender to a guru. Therefore, you have the guru, and now he can do something. In the introduction to the Gita, which we didn't really read last time, but it's there, Prabhupada says, knowledge means, one very simple definition there is of knowledge, to know matter and spirit, and the controller of both. Now, I don't know if we have any scholars here. You may have university degrees, PhDs. You may have studied extensively. You may have distinctions, merits, whatever accolades were given to you. But really, unless you know this, matter, spirit, unless you understand what matter is, and you understand what spirit is, and you understand who is in charge of both of them, you're not considered very knowledgeable. It's like, in one sense, you've wasted your life. You may have the PhD, you may have 100 letters after your name. If you haven't got this main point, what is matter, what is spirit, and who's in charge of both of it, you don't actually have the tools to make a useful life for yourself in this world. You can acquire so many things. You can acquire a house, you can acquire a car, you can acquire a palace, you can acquire a kingdom, you can acquire servants, tickets to wherever you want, opulence, wealth, fame, beauty. You could even acquire all that as your lifetimes proceed. But what use is it if you don't actually understand what the problem is with being in the material world? And something about spirit, which is the only reason we are able to experience lifetimes. Because after all, if we weren't spiritual, and if the entire body was made of chemicals, why would we even have this discussion? It's like at the end of this life, it's all finished. Nothing to live for, nothing worth achieving. So spirit is there. And we need to know how it operates and who's the controller of it. That's Krishna's opening gambit, which will now get very, very serious. Because Krishna is about to present now very fundamental principles. And this is where in Krishna consciousness, we can immediately turn to when any discussion on the soul takes place. Because right from text 12, the soul takes center stage. So let's read some of these verses now. Text 12, we can just do the English for now. Where did we get to? Anyway, I don't know where we got to. Maybe I can just ask Vidisha, if you can start with this. Text 12.
The English only?
Yeah, please, just the English.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Well, we could literally spend 1 hour going through each of these verses. And in fact, that's what you would do when you were giving a class on a verse, right? You'd spend an hour. Instead, we'll dwell for a few moments on these fundamental verses, these opening 7 to 8 verses. Never was there a time when you did not exist, nor me, nor all these kings that you see here. How can you describe that? What one word springs to your mind when you hear that statement? What does it mean?
Eternal.
Eternal. Now, there's a very important item to do with eternity that all the other religions have kind of failed to grasp, or most of them have. In terms of the Christian conception, the idea is that God creates the souls, and then they have eternal life thereafter. But is that really eternity? Because eternity means there was never a point of creation for you. Right? The concept of eternity doesn't just extend into the future. If you actually follow the definition of the word, it should also extend into the past. Right? Just think about that. Eternity means you've always existed. And that's what Krishna said here. Never was there a time when I did not exist. So Krishna is saying, first of all, I have always existed. And you have always existed. We are simultaneously present. It's a very fundamental point. We are simultaneously present. And indeed, every single other person is. While there is time, we have all been here. Simultaneously. Just keep it in your mind. We won't develop that too much. But it does mean, as we go now, that if we have had an eternal, if our existence is eternal, then what is yet to come is not the only factor. Something's also happened in the past, and that needs to be understood. And that is an item that is missing from mostly from, you can say, most faiths, specifically the Abrahamic faiths, it's missing. Buddhism has this concept because it's kind of like a perverted version of the Vedic teachings. Some other faiths have it to some degree or other, but the principal religions of the world don't really have it. The principal Western religions, anyway, you can say. Because there's no real concept or consideration of what I did in the past that is now connected to what's happening to me now. And it's essential. Because without that, you cannot actually explain anything properly. But we'll come to this point in a bit. Does anyone want to ask any questions on that for now? No. Let's go to text 13. I'll give you a new sequence because everyone's shifted around on my screen now. So we've got Mazar, then Simon, Guhanesh, Bidisha, and then Tanay. Okay. So why don't you start, Mazar, and then we'll continue.
All right. As the embodied soul continues to passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Yes. A sober person does not get confused by such a change. We wander from body to body. Now, when someone first comes across this notion, it's revolutionary. The body is not the definition of your existence, as most people think. They think my consciousness, my existence is because of this particular body, the cells, the genes, the chromosomes, my heritage, my body, me. And as a result of all this wonderful chemistry within me, I have a mind that allows me to conceive of concepts, gives me a sense of happiness, and I have a very nice CPU in the head, the brain. All of this is responsible for producing my ability. The Vedic teachings turn this completely backwards. And they say that it is not because of all these physical assets that you have a personality and can think. Rather, it is because of your consciousness, your personality, that you have this body that allows you to function in this world. According to your consciousness, according to your state of mind, you get this body that allows you to fulfill your desires. It's switching the normal concepts completely upside down. These two verses, 12 and 13, very much define the soul. But Arjun, if you remember, is not acting on the platform of the soul. He's acting on a platform of material compassion with happiness and distress that comes and goes. So Krishna has to interject two items first. So if someone could read 14, please.
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat. and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Yes. When winter comes, what do? I mean, in this country, it is a standard topic of conversation to talk about the weather. Isn't it a lovely day today? Oh, it's so cold. The standard natter that goes on. We have a good whinge, don't we? Because the weather often is quite miserable here. Not always. Sometimes it can be very nice. But yeah, often it's miserable and unpredictable, you can say. But the reality is you can't do anything about it. You can make small adjustments to your environment, maybe with central heating, maybe with air conditioning, cold drinks, hot drinks. You can do that. Yes, you can get some warm Thinsulate gloves, some Gore-Tex fabric, which is breathable, and you can do all these things, but you still can't change the fact that it's freezing cold outside sometimes, or hot, or wet, or humid. You can't do anything about it. So Krishna is saying that, look, if we now need to get you, Arjuna, onto a platform of sobriety, onto a platform of sober thinking, and a sober person treats happiness and distress in just the same way that they treat summer and winter. And what's the best way to do that? It comes and it goes. Life goes on. You don't not go to work because it's a little bit cold. I mean, these days, the Gen Z are doing it, right? But I can't go to work, it's a little too cold, or it's a little bit too hot. The employer is obliged to supply me air conditioning now when it gets to 26 degrees or something silly like that. There's all these things going on. But the reality is that, you need to be a bit tough. You got to just go up. You just got to go and just put up with this stuff. That's life. So traditionally, or just in terms of normal sense, you still have certain things to do. You don't not eat one day just because it's too hot, right? You don't out of a desire to punish the world or its controller, you decide, I'm not going to eat now. I'm going to do a hunger strike until I get the right temperature. You're still going to eat because you need it. You go to work because you need it. Life will go on. Your children still need to be fed. Your relatives still need to be taken care of. You still need money coming in. Life has to go on. Apply this to happiness and distress. It's the same thing. You still have to get on with your business, whether you are happy or not. Krishna has to instill in Arjuna a sense of responsibility and certain toughness now. Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. Give up this petty weakness of heart, right? Those were Krishna's words. Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. Tyaktva utishta parantapa. Text 15.
O best among men, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
We're looking at the spiritual components now. If your entire life is centered around you being engrossed in whether you are happy or sad, which in all honesty, practically every materialist person in this world, that is their agenda. It really is, right? How to gain happiness and how to avoid sadness. It's nothing else that drives them. For moments, there might be some duty. Prabhupada calls that extended sense gratification. Type of extended self-gratification. Maybe not for myself, but for others then. The same type of satisfaction of the senses. For us, as practitioners on the path of bhakti, we have to become steady in order to progress along the path of spiritual life and to make progress towards liberation. You cannot get caught up with something because it will change. It will change. And if you can simply remember this analogy of a river, you'll find a great help in your life in general. A river flows from its source to its destination, right? Meandering left, right, sometimes up, down. Rocks sometimes come in the way. Does the river give up? The river simply bends around it and moves on. If you have the capacity, or you develop the capacity to do that, just in life in general, here is your first lesson from the Gita, first or second lesson from the Gita. You will be successful. On the other hand, a mere obstacle presents itself, stops you. You wouldn't be successful in your company, you wouldn't be successful in your home, you wouldn't be successful anywhere. Because every day we have to overcome obstacles just to survive. If the child gives up at the first difficult exam they have to write, they're never going to get the degree or never going to get the job or whatever they want, right? You don't give up. You work, you overcome challenges to the best of your ability. That's how we can conduct ourselves. Now, Krishna had to speak these two verses just to get Arjuna on a certain platform. He's going to speak on text 16. Let's hear text 16.
Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
Yes. They have concluded this by studying the nature of both things. And this is referring to the jnanis, the rishis. Anyone who really wants to analyze this, there are clear differences. Body will finish. The soul is eternal. Text 17.
That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Yes, the Vedic conception, the soul, is seated in the region of the heart. It's not really connected to the organ directly, but it's in the region of the heart. And it spreads its influence throughout the entire body. And by that influence, the body animates and acts. Of course, so many chemical processes and otherwise are all there, but they're subservient processes. It is the presence of the soul that allows all of those processes to function. That's the Vedic teaching. That's what we're here to explore, the Vedic teaching. That your consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, which from its central location animates and enlivens this body, that is the permanent feature of you, not the body itself. Okay? Text 18.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata.
In a nice way, Krishna is basically saying, you're going to die anyway, Arjun. We're all going to die. You're going to die. He doesn't actually say, I will die, because Krishna doesn't. But Arjun, he does clearly have to say, you're going to die. So what are you getting upset about? Text 19.
Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain.
And can you read the next one as well?
For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Well, isn't that a concrete, clear statement with no ambiguity possible regarding the situation of the soul that is definitely existed a long time ago, will continue forever, is existing now, does not come into being, will never come into being. Why? Because he's always there, always permanently there. And that is you could say the sum, and you could say it's the foundational root of Vedic teachings. Foundational scriptural point upon which everything is built. And this is the not just a scriptural foundation, this is a foundation of our existence in this world, that we are eternal beings in this world, which is temporary, and in a body made of this world, of elements of this world, which is also temporary. And in so many different verses, Krishna has just really established this point. If you have knowledge, you can't kill someone because the soul cannot be killed. We're on a different level of contemplation here now. And this also has some dangers in terms of how we understand this. So we will come to those. However, I think at this point, it might be good to take a break. We've gone for some time. So yeah, let's meet again, say in about 10 minutes. 12 o'clock, we can continue. All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Haribo, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Jai Hari Hari. You weren't with us last week, right? Last lesson?
No, Prabhu.
Okay.
Last lesson, there was something going on at the temple, so I was there.
Okay.
I went for a little bit and I left.
All
But I
right.
went back to and taking notes. My name is Guhanesh.
Ganesh. Okay. Yeah. Because we introduced
Me-
ourselves last time. So.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah. Me and Nagesh both live in the same city.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
we're friends. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Are we ready to continue? And this equation that's on your screen, symptom of the soul equals, how would you finish it?
Can we get a hint?
Let's see. Who can do it without the hint?
Both temporary and permanent.
Yes, but what is the symptom? Because
Symptom.
you
Sorry.
cannot see the soul itself, right?
Consciousness.
Consciousness, yes. Perfect. The way you know you have a soul or that you are the soul is because there's consciousness exhibited. That is the symptom. Right. Okay. So let's carry on. Some of these verses are very, very important. So we're gonna go through. Did we read 21 just now? Oh, we did 20, I think, didn't we?
No, we
Yeah.
did not do one, Prabhu.
We didn't do 21. Okay, so let's start with 21. Okay, now here's the new sequence according to what's on the screen now. We've got Bidisha first, Guhanesh, then Mazar, then Simon, then Tanay. Okay, so let's start. Bidisha with 21.
O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill?
How do you kill someone that cannot be killed? Right, it's the totally different angle from Arjun's perspective. Krishna is giving him. Text 22.
As a person puts on new garments, gives up old ones, this as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
Yes. How many of you lament for a pair of old socks? Don't really, right? I know some people sometimes keep a bit of memorabilia from the past, like an old t-shirt or something or like that. But really, I mean, once the cloth is worn out, or as happened to me just the other day, a bird offered a gift, as I was walking by and it splattered all over it. I just threw it away. I didn't want to take it any further. It was an old worn out item anyway. When a piece of cloth becomes old and useless, you don't hold on to it. Maybe you might remember as you were growing up as children, your shoe size is going up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. You don't, with great attachment, carry on wearing your size 4 shoes when you're now a size 8. You get rid of them. No need, no reason for attachment. It's an item that's meant to serve you, not that you're meant to serve it. That's what items are for. In fact, in life in general, in today's modern world, we've got a few things back to front. You may have heard this, but got a few things back to front. We, one second, I'm forgetting it now. Yes. We, actually put that on hold. You have to say it right, otherwise it doesn't work, It's like a punchline. If you get the wrong words in there, it doesn't work. I'll come back to that in a minute. All right, let's carry on.
Prabhu, I have this small thing that I would like to share with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what item is meant to serve you, which is so right, because I feel in today's world that we care about things and use people. Rather, we should care about people and use things.
Yeah.
You
Very
know, so
interesting, isn't it?
the soul is, yeah, is eternal, and the body is material, and we should more care about the consciousness of the soul. So yeah, sorry, I just remembered this.
It's true. Very, very important point. Yeah. Who do we care for in these days anymore? These days we care for our new shiny car that's parked in our driveway, which we think is going to get scratched. And the person who's working hard all day long, we couldn't care less. We just take their efforts for granted. We don't really care about them. We use them. And it's so sadly becoming the way. Even though the propaganda against it is also increasing, but in reality, it's all going the other direction. Our whole lives are now centered towards the acquisition of more and more objects. And yes, it's a sad state of affairs. 23 now. More revision, 23.
The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
Yeah. You might think, Arjun, that you're a powerful warrior with powerful weapons. Don't forget, Arjun had the best collection of weapons possible because he had been bestowed upon, those had been bestowed on him by the various demigods, including Indra and others. He had acquired them as a result of his adventures while on exile in other times. By helping the demigods, he received weapons and different benedictions and boons from them. And of course, he learnt them from his teachers, earned them from his teachers. Krishna is saying, your weapons can't touch the soul. Don't get carried away with yourself, Arjun. You might have some good weapons in your armament, but you can't touch the soul. No one's soul. You can't touch it. So get a grip. And it gives us a little hint as to the type of weapons that were available. As Prabhupada said, we only have access now in today's world to fire weapons, right? Things that basically go bang and produce a lot of heat and smoke and whatever. But there's actually weapons possible from each of the elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now, thankfully, very thankfully, we don't have access to them or knowledge of them anymore. Because just consider the amount of damage we as a humanity in general do with the limited knowledge we have of some fire weapons. Imagine what we would do if we had access to all the rest of them as well. We'd cause havoc, wouldn't we? Therefore, in the Vedic times, weapons would be received, and so these were very sophisticated weapons which would be fired with mantras. Therefore, you'll also see that sometimes before Arjun fired a weapon, he sat down on the chariot and performed achaman before he invoked the mantras required for firing the weapons. So those weapons were only given by the proper guru to the disciple, when the guru decided this person is fit to receive them. Not just traded, traded as the arms industry, just given only when fit. And therefore, lots of intrigues took place. Because the gurus, the Kshatriya teachers, would really check whether this person has the character to wield that weapon. Of course, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, it started to go wrong with weapons being acquired, misused by wrong people for the wrong purposes. And it really went into another level with Ashwatthama. During the course of the Mahabharata, you will know that he had access to the Brahmastra weapon, the most ferocious weapon, like a nuclear weapon is described, but he did not have complete knowledge of it. He had not completed his study and did not have the character to fully wield that weapon, but he still employed it, then caused havoc, tried to kill Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. And then Ashwatthama had to be chastised. It's the Bhagavatam, first canto. So really the point is there are ferocious weapons out there, but none of them can do anything to the soul. More descriptions. The soul is unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be burned, cannot be dried, everlasting, permanent, everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. Invisible, inconceivable, immutable. I mean, how many more points does Krishna need to raise here? Therefore, you should not grieve for the body. don't grieve for the body. But then Krishna gives a very kind of almost tongue-in-cheek statement in text 26. Can you read text 26?
Is it
I'll
me?
go to the next.
I
Yeah.
think it's me.
Yeah.
If, however, you think that the soul will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed.
So even if you think the soul is either going to be born and then will die, means you only have one life. If you don't really believe that the soul comes and goes, but you accept that you have a soul now and you know you're going to die and that's going to be the end of it, then why are you lamenting? What does it matter? Once you're dead and gone, what will be the problem? Even from that perspective, which is now completely not on the spiritual platform, Krishna is posing this suggestion to Arjun. Arjun, your thought process is flawed, spiritually and also from this simple calculation. 27.
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after that, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Fact is that after birth, death comes. And this next fact is missing from most people's understanding. That after death, birth comes again. If that's the case, then what need is there to lament? What are you worried about? You'll have another go. Try it all again. Try it out. And then a few verses are there. Now, we're not going to get into all the details, the descriptions of the soul is amazing and all of that. But Krishna starts concluding certain things. He says in text 30, you now understand this relationship between the body and the soul, how they're different. Therefore, you have no reason to grieve. Now, what comes next is that Krishna starts giving Arjun a set of explanations. A set of explanations based upon a different angle of thinking. Okay, 31 to 37. So can I request maybe one person can read them all in one go? Yeah, maybe Simon, you're next. Just 31 to 37.
Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sin for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight.
Thank you. Get up and fight. Krishna's arguments are all of a certain type here, specifically related to the Kshatriya codes. Can you see this? Here's our warrior, Arjun. I don't know, it looks like some kind of Nordic type thing, or some old English old English warrior, but anyway. Krishna is pointing out to Arjun that anything you wish to gain comes from dutiful fighting because you happen to be a warrior, you happen to be a Kshatriya. And what can go wrong? Look at this simple calculation. It's so simple and clear, right? You cannot go wrong. If you actually behave correctly as a Kshatriya, you cannot go wrong. Let's say you fight and you win, then what happens? You get a lavish kingdom. You've won. You've got riches. You've got, I don't know, whatever you want. You've got queens. You've got wealth. You've got kingdom, land. You've got whatever you want. If you lose, you get to the heavenly planets where things are even better. So if you behave like a Kshatriya, what can go wrong for you? However, if you don't fight, here's what will go wrong for you. Because you're a Kshatriya and you're meant to fight. You will incur sin. And just earlier in the whole of chapter 1, Arjuna was going on about how we will incur sinful reactions if we kill our respectable seniors and lead to Varna Sankara and lead to the destruction of dynasty, right? Well, Krishna is saying, well, consider this for a moment. You're saying that you want to avoid sin by avoiding fighting. Let me tell you this, if you avoid fighting, you're incurring sin. Arjuna's now stuck in the middle, right? I don't fight. I mean, I'll incur sin. If I fight, I'll incur sin. And then something else, bit more spicy. You, Arjun, you're a Kshatriya. You're in an exalted line. We may have to call you a coward. Or society will call you a coward. And what better or what worse insult is there for you? Actually, a Kshatriya, someone with valor and dignity, is quite happy to be killed in battle, right? Legitimate battle. They're happy to be killed. But if they run away from the battle, if they flee out of fear, that is considered, or if they are insulted, that is considered far worse. Kshatriya dishonor is worse than death. And it is. My honor will be preserved. I will maintain my honor. I don't know if any of you remember this film, Rob Roy, old Scottish film, different clans. You know, Rob Roy is the valorous one with my honor on my life. That's the best Scottish accent I can come out with. But it was very good because he was embodying the Kshatriya spirit there. That I will fight and I will preserve honor and I will protect the weak. That's what I do. I don't care if I live or die. I will do. That's my duty. Well, Arjuna has taken, Krishna has taken Arjun's thinking ability onto a different platform. With this considerations, he's dealing with Arjun's objection earlier on, that my enjoyment will fail. Just in this bit, Krishna has just dealt with it. He said, you're worried about your enjoyment failing? No, it won't fail. You'll get this earthly kingdom here if you win. If you lose, you'll get your enjoyment in heaven. Krishna is going to systematically address each and every one of Arjun's objections. I'm going to go through that. And in the process of doing so, he's going to give Arjun and us an insight into how to live correctly with the right perspective. All of this kind of analysis so far is based on very simple principles, based on principles of duty, right? Now Krishna is going to up the ante a bit. He's going to give principles which are based on something else now. In text 38, he gets into this a bit of a different angle. Will someone read 38? Whoever's next, Tanay, I think.
Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin.
A little bit of a different angle here. Arjun, you've been worried about sin. Only by doing your duty. If you ignore happiness and distress, because the moment you get attached to them, you're entangled again. If you want to be free from sin, you have to fight for the sake of fighting. The whole point is that We should work. Arjun is trying to avoid working, right? All of his argument so far is, I don't want to work. You may say, what work? But he's a Kshatriya, he's meant to fight. That's his work. Arjun is saying, I don't want to fight. Krishna is saying, you should work. But you have to give up everything that you mentioned in your objection so far. Happiness, distress, sin. You have to give up all those things, but you must still work. Therefore, you work in a renounced spirit, not to renounce the activity itself. Right? Hopefully that's clear. Arjun's intention was to avoid the activity. But Krishna is saying, you have to do the activity, but you have to change your mentality. And it's your mentality that is fundamentally involved and responsible for the reactions you get to any of your actions. It's very much involved in it. Is that okay? This verse 38 is a bit of a bridge between what comes next. Now we're going to read a chunk of verses. We're going to cover a little section now where Krishna presents things with a mentality which is a little different to the duty-based happiness, distress approach of the 31 to 37 verses. At the end of this whole analysis, we'll present a little chart where you'll see, maybe in your handbook anyway, you'll see a little chart where you can see the different categories of explanations that Krishna gives to Arjuna. But don't worry about that now. With the time we'll explore each of these categories in some detail. 39, Krishna says, so far I've explained this to you through analytical study. Now listen how I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. Fruitive results. This is the concept that's going to be dealt with now thoroughly. And this is how you will free yourself from bondage. Text 40 is a very important verse. Don't worry, Arjun. You now have to get to the point of overcoming success or failure. And you should know very clearly that what I'm describing to you, this particular path, there is never any loss or diminution on it. And for us as devotees practicing our path of bhakti, this verse is very key for us to also remember and memorize. Neha vikramanashusti pratyavayanu vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. The greatest type of fear, trayate mahato bhayat. One overcomes it. How does one overcome it? If one understands and makes a little swalpa, one makes a little bit of progress on this path that is to be described now, the spiritual path. One never loses. And therefore, with conviction, we can speak to any living entity in this world and say to them with conviction, if you deeply understand this verse, you should become a devotee of Krishna. You will never experience, there will never be any disadvantage or loss from your doing so. How many of us have the courage and confidence to say that to anyone? But we can now after this verse. Whether the person is a king, whether the person is a criminal, whether the person is a sweeper in the street, whether the person is fabulously wealthy, man, woman, whoever, we can with confidence say to them that you should take up the path of Krishna consciousness and you will not be worse off in any way whatsoever. And you will be benefited so much by even just a little attempt on this path. For me, I've always found that to be very reassuring because, you know, we will often wonder about our own ability to practice the path properly. You know, we will think, okay, there are so many exalted devotees and my own practice is so weak. I can't even exert discipline for a length of time. I keep messing it up. I keep making mistakes. I keep messing it up. Should I just stop? No. Whatever you have done for Krishna, whatever attempt you've made, is to your eternal credit now. And Krishna is never going to release you back into the world of chaos. That should be a source of great support. Krishna is not going to abandon you now. This path will deliver the results to you. You're on the path, you don't need to worry now. You are okay. You're being helped. That hopefully can give us great relief. And so we can just consider how this works. Here's what happens on the left. When you try to solve a problem materially, right? You try and undertake a project, let's say in Arjun's case, fighting and achieving victory. Here's what will happen. You will be judged by the result, right? If your army goes into battle and you lose, well, that's it. You're finished. You're probably going to be resigning, right? You're no good as a commander. You've lost the plot. You've lost it. You've lost your right to be in that role. Materially, the project that you start, you have to complete it to get the proper results, isn't it? Let's say you start university. Well, okay, it's no point just doing half a degree. You've got to do the whole thing. You've got to finish it. If you start a project at work, maybe you're building something, or maybe you're designing something, or maybe you're constructing something, or laboring at doing something. You've got to complete the task. The boss doesn't want half-finished jobs, right? No wages for you unless you get your job done. And all such action is temporary, because the results of it, the consequences of your action, only apply for some period of time. You did some nice work for the company, they gave you a pay packet and maybe a little salary raise. That's it. Transaction finished. It's transactional. On the other hand, and this term we can use, Buddhi Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga also can be used in terms of describing this series of verses. Both are okay. In this endeavor, we will be judged by our endeavor, not the result. Look, result, you don't have to get the result right. It's just your endeavor that comes. Krishna is saying to Arjun, why are you worried about whether you will win or lose? You just fight. Or why are you worried about whether you will achieve happiness for all your dependents or not? You don't have to worry about that. You've just got to do the action. Forget the goal. You're supposed to be doing the action. Even if you fail in your action, that's what this verse says. Neha Vikramanashusti. Srila Prabhupada, in his explanation to this verse, says it very nicely. He says, let's say in life, in this life, you do some Krishna conscious activity. And let's say you make it to 40% complete, right? 40% complete required to go back to Godhead. In your next life, you start from 0 again? No, you start from 41. You didn't lose anything here. And this process is so rapid, it's actually undoing lifetimes of damage that you've done to yourself. Lifetimes of developing the knot. So whenever you have a chance, whenever you have any time, spend it on Krishna consciousness and continue that project. Because very shortly, even if it's a few lives, it's nothing compared to the millions of lives of mess we have behind us. Do something. Keep going. There's no loss or diminution. You don't have to complete it. There are some examples, right? Jatayu is fighting. Did he complete his task? No, he failed actually, didn't he? He failed because Ravana killed him. He didn't manage to stop Ravana taking Sita. But was he successful? Yes, he was supremely successful. Because he acted to serve Lord Ram and protect Mother Sita. Therefore, he was completely successful. How the agents of this world judge, we don't care. Right? We don't care. Or Krishna doesn't care. Your country may judge you harshly if you mess it up. Your boss may throw you out the company if you mess it up. Project goes wrong, your head's on the line. Krishna won't consider that. The temple management might still consider it, but if you make a real mess of things, maybe maybe a better location is suitable for you. But Krishna won't. Krishna will say, if he sees that you tried to do things correctly, that's what I care about, Krishna will say. I'll give you another chance next life to continue the project, the program. Results are permanent. Neha Bikramanash Pratyavayana Vidyate. Never is there any loss or diminution. So if you're faced now with the two choices, which would you go for? Blindingly obvious, right? Which one we should go for? Obviously, this one on the right is far better. But if someone doesn't know that these are the options available, and Arjun wasn't acting in that knowledge when he was Shudram Hridaya Daurbalyam going on. He didn't have this knowledge at hand. That's why we do Bhakti Sastri. So we get this knowledge at hand, but we know now how we can approach the next task we have ahead of us. Which task do we select? How do we engage in the task? With what motivation do we do it? Makes a world of difference to the outcome you will get eventually, to your satisfaction while you're doing the task, to your dependence on Krishna while you're doing the task. Complete world of difference. Any thoughts on that? Krishna in the next few verses is going to give some salient pieces of information. He speaks in text 41 of single-pointed determination. Discipline and focus is often associated with yoga practice. And yes, it is necessary. Discipline and focus is very much needed for us to achieve success in anything. Materially, you all have that experience, or maybe the experience of having not done so. But Krishna is saying, discipline and focus will get you success in this endeavor. Those who are of small knowledge, yamimam pushpitam vacham, those who want to enjoy different things, who are very much mesmerized by the flowery language of the Vedas. Do you want this? You do this, yagya. You want this result? Worship this devata. Worship, do this, do that. Plant some trees, do this. All this type of stuff. All for the sake of, I would like to go to Indra's planet and enjoy with the Apsaras. Or I'd like to go up there, have some fun, try out the Somaras beverage. Don't have any disease to worry about, no old age. That's, you want that. The Vedas will deliver it to you if you want it. But it's called something else. It's called Karma Kanda. And the problem with all of that is that such persons will simply be overwhelmed with opulence and enjoyment, and they will say, there's nothing more than this, and they will never develop the resolute determination, as in the next verse, Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Paharate Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadona Vidyate. If your thoughts and your agendas are full of sense gratification, you will never focus with discipline. Think about that for a moment in your own lives. Isn't it true? If you're constantly looking for the next dose of satisfaction, oh, I'm hungry, I want this, that, will you sit down even for half an hour and read the Gita? Will you sit down and do japa? If your mind is always on the next item of sense gratification that's just round the corner? No, because Vyavasayatmika Buddhi will not arise. You can learn this term, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, single-pointed, focused intelligence. Ekya, just one single-pointed, undeviated by bhoga and aishwarya. Bhoga means enjoyment, aishwarya means opulence. The devotees or yoga practitioners in general, renounce bhoga and aishwarya, right? They do that. They renounce the desire to enjoy material assets in the material world. And they don't strive for opulence in order to gain something much better. That's the point. Sometimes people look at us and say, you guys are all miserable, these yoga, you guys never have any fun. Well, that's not quite correct, actually. Even the path of bhakti gives you so much fun. Gives you so much fun right from beginning to end. But we get something else altogether. We actually get eternal enjoyment. Ramante yogina manante satyanam vichidatmani. But for that purpose, we are willing to put aside the temporary distractions. Imagine if every time an enticement pops up in your path, and you're going from A to B, and you stop off and take a diversion. Will you get to your path B? Will you get to the point B? Maybe after a long, long time. This is all about distraction. And you know what's the greatest destructive or distracting factor today? Exactly. There's this character here. This one, beep, ding, boing, bang, whatever it's doing in the background, click. We literally stop whatever we're doing and just look at the latest pop-up distraction. Is literally, this thing is just like the purport of this verse. This thing exists to give us that. Maybe we can find the mute button on our phone if we have one, or the off button is also particularly handy. And when you're doing your items of sadhana, of practice, of study, just put this guy in a corner and tell him to be quiet. That's it. It's the only way forward. Don't let him have a direct line into the inner workings of your mind, ability to disrupt you at any point. This Gita was written at a point when this stuff wasn't directly available. Now that this is available, the situation has become many thousands of times worse. So just cast your mind back to a point without these gadgets to distract us. And still this point is being made. So it's quite a tricky, tall order to actually focus. The only way you can do that is with practice, practice, and practice. And you can test yourselves. When you do some reading as part of your studies for this course, and really when you're doing a course like this, you need to be reading it every day. To be reading the Gita every day at this particular point, answering questions. Can you do it for half an hour without any distractions? You need to put it that way. You need to develop that. And maybe that would be one very powerful result you get from this course alone. Not just the knowledge, but just the conviction for discipline. That I'm now able to sit down with the Gita for half an hour and focus on the Gita. Other things, let them fade into the background. Won't that be so useful in your general lives anyway, to have that skill? It's the Gita. These flowery words, these items are all allurements, are all available in the Vedas. And they stop you advancing. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, rise above these three modes and all of the sense gratification and worldly items and become transcendently situated. Can someone read text 47?
Uh, 47, right?
Yeah.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
Yes. Don't think that the result that came is because of you. Now this, actually for all of us, is particularly difficult if we do something, right? Say you achieve something, you do a project, you achieve it. And Krishna is saying here, don't take credit for it. You're thinking, I just slogged away for 3 months, 4 months, or whatever. And you're saying I shouldn't take credit for it. Well, that's exactly what Krishna is saying. Much later, we will come across factors of action, right, that are involved in any result that comes. And it is definitely by far the most sensible course of action to not take credit for anything that happens and to offer all the results to Krishna. That is the safest way. And that's why he says, is this again, isn't it? Let's get our pointer back. Our pointer. Okay. Pointer. Here we go. It's all to do with this, isn't it? Judged by your endeavor. The result is not important. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities. Don't do that. I did this. I'm so good. Give me a medal. Give me the Nobel Peace Prize. Give me this. Give me that. Whatever demands we may make. And never be attached to not doing your duty. The consequence sometimes of renunciation is that people think, well, it's nothing to do with me anyway, so why should I bother? Imagine someone going to the office working hard, and then you tell them actually the result isn't anything to do with you, don't take credit for it. The person saying, of course I'm going to take credit for it. I've been slogging away here and it's my work. He's not going to listen to you, right? But if that does become the philosophy, you'll say, oh, fine, what's the point of doing it? If I can't even take credit for the work, I'll just resign and just lounge at home. If I don't even have, any reward from this work, what's the point? And Krishna says, yes, that's exactly what you need to learn. And as part of this, you do things not because of your rewards, but because of your duty. Because it's the right thing to do. You do it on an intelligent basis. Perform your duty equipoised, right? This is called yoga. Keep abominable activities far distant and engage in this process, which can be considered to be devotional service. I'm not going to develop this too much more today. That's quite enough conceptually that we have done. But I want to just show you one chart here. We started off some time ago. Do you remember? Early on with this. Remember that? These are the categories of Arjun's objections. And if you want the full category of objections, we looked at those two. They were here, right? This was Arjun's full category of all the possible objections he has. So we came to this point. And we summarized all of those as compassion, enjoyment. My enjoyment will be impeded, their enjoyment will be sinful reactions, destruction of dynasty, leading to indecision. Krishna is systematically dismantling these objections, and he's done now 2 major sections of it so far. Now, this order that you see these things on the screen is not quite correct. Right? Not quite correct. The first one, compassion. How did Krishna deal with this? Which of these 4 items did Krishna use to deal with Arjun's idea of compassion?
Karma Kanda.
Yes, Karma Kanda, definitely. So this one goes here. Actually, that didn't show on the screen at all. Did it? Oh, it did. Right, you saw that line. Okay, good. Karma Kand. He gave karma kanda arguments. You want happiness, you want enjoyment. Well, you'll get that as a Kshatriya. Fight, go to the heavens. This is the karma kanda mentality. Do the correct thing, get the sense gratification results. Remember, at that instant, Krishna did not deride sense gratification. He said, you can have it, but you have to get it through this way or that way. Simon Prabhu?
Sorry, Prabhu. Isn't that to do with? I thought that was to do with enjoyment. The karma kanda component of it.
Oh, so it's both. It's both actually. There's a bit of yeah. We'll come to it. There's a bit of a mix-up. There's a substantial degree of overlap, but you are right. I did mention just enjoyment. Let's complete that there. It's there, enjoyment. Is that okay? Once the whole thing's up there, we'll try and resolve it. Sorry, yes. Compassion was dealt with how? I went wrong there. Start again with this shenanigans, can't enjoyment. Sorry, that was that one. Compassion. Okay, let's do compassion. Sorry, bro. How did Krishna deal with Arjun's compassion? Compassionate feelings he has for his elders, for his relatives, for the his dynasty, his forefathers.
Is it Gnanya, the knowledge that they are not the body, and so the destruction of their bodies does not equate to the destruction of their souls, so his weapons can't touch them.
Exactly. Buddhi Yoga. Now, Buddhi Yoga also is connected, you know, if you want to stick it down here as well, destruction of dynasty. It's also connected to that one. They're very much interconnected there. Compassion in general, and then specifically the dynasty aspects that come. Sinful reactions, that's what we've just touched on.
Karma yoga?
Yeah. It makes sense. It's karma yoga, Nishkam karma yoga. Now, the only confusing thing you're going to have with this is that terms are used interchangeably. Srila Prabhupada, in the previous sections, we introduced the term Buddhi Yoga, right? Well, Buddhi Yoga was the first one that was there. Buddhi Yoga is also, has been in this analysis, overlapped with Nishkam Karma Yoga. So the reason I'm presenting this is so that you can see, don't get overly hung up on these terms at this point, because they will get substantially used in different ways. They do have very specific meanings. And when we get to the yoga ladder, we will have more descriptions of those. But for now, let's just look at the concepts of the words. Buddhi, intelligence, right? Buddhi is intelligence, knowledge-based understanding of something. If you perform an activity with knowledge, then sinful reactions, sorry, let's get the pointer back again. Then sinful reactions, there we go. Sinful reactions will also disappear. Can you consider that buddhi? Yes, you can consider it. Buddhi is involved, but you're also doing some actions. You haven't been separated from the action. In fact, we'll realize at the end of all of this, that all of these ultimately produce results when bhakti is involved as a principle. And with Krishna instructing Arjuna, it is bhakti that will actually give fuel for any of the results of these to manifest. All right. Keep those items in mind. Jnana Yoga is also involved in several of those items. Oops, where's my thing here? With knowledge, this part also becomes true. In fact, without knowledge, you cannot perform karma yoga properly. And Buddhi yoga definitely connected to it all. In some definition, Srila Prabhupada refers to everything, which including pure bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, sakam karma, nishkama yoga, nishkam karma yoga. All of that he refers to as bhakti. We'll only come to this when we touch on the yoga ladder. Therefore, sometimes people get a little too caught up in the precise definitions and names of this. You should know what they mean and how they apply, but don't get overly caught up at this point. That's really what I want to emphasize with this particular chart. The indecision arises when these items on the right-hand side are not performed and one becomes confused as to what to do. And indecision for a devotee is not very good at all. Not at all recommended. In fact, it's a disempowering thing. Something that's would best be left out. We should not be flickering of mind. We should not be kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. We should be sober, peaceful, steady, focused on the Lord, right? Sober, peaceful, steady, focused on the Lord. Then all the problems we have, all the challenges we have, they can all be overcome without undue confusion. What should I do is a common question people ask. In fact, they will ask their spiritual master, what is my duty? We know we should follow our prescribed duty. Krishna has just started the discourse that comes to that conclusion, following prescribed duty. Do it as a matter of duty. We ask the spiritual master, what should my service be? What should I do? Yes, once we have the answer, it's not that we need to be hankering or lamenting about this, that, or alternative aspects. We simply carry on and do it peacefully, happily, with full satisfaction and faith that Krishna will correct anything that's needed for my growth. So we've opened up basically a world of inquiry now, where your decisions are based upon scriptural principles. And that's really why we study the Gita. To be able to inform the decisions and choices we have to make in this world with knowledge, full knowledge that comes from Scripture. Enlighten ourselves with knowledge. Cut with the sword of knowledge to pieces all our misconceptions that Hridaya Granthi. That's what we are aiming to do. And for Arjun, these are the opening lessons from Krishna. Opening lessons. So we'll stop it there for today. We can take some questions and comments, anything you want to raise. But we'll cover the last part of this chapter next week. It is a big chapter. Second largest, I mentioned, 72 verses. Okay, any questions?
Prabhu, I have a very quick question. So Nishkama and Sakama, they both fall under the category of Karma Yoga. Is that correct?
That's right. They're divisions within Karma Yoga. Sakam Karma Yoga means you perform your Karma Yoga with a desire for some results. What Krishna explained earlier was the higher level, which is Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is performing your duty without any results at all. It's more difficult. Sakam means like the demigods. I'm going to worship you, Vishnu, but I want a few things in return. You know, I want my heavenly kingdoms, I want my dancing girls, I want my somaras, I want a few things. Indra's got a list of things he likes, you know. And the pure devotee or the person performing Nishkam Karma Yoga, Krishna, I'm simply doing this all as a service to you. please accept it. It's still karma yoga because the person is still acting for Krishna. Acting, but now they're dovetailing the entirety of their results to Krishna. But I guess we don't need to delve into that now. That description will come in the yoga ladder section more. Sakam and Nishkam.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have one question.
Mhm.
So we have these Pandava side, spiritually elevated, and then we have this Kuru side. So even in our contemporary human life, regular basic people, who desires actually to be greedy, jealous, and all that? Is it like, which one desires? Is the mind, consciousness, or which one does that?
Your question will be fully answered a bit later in the Gita, but I'll give this synopsis. There are 3 gates leading to hell, it says in the Gita. Kama, Krodha, Tata, Lobha. Then there's another problem. There are 3 places in the body, and each of them has been infected by a disease known as lust. And the sitting place of lust is the mind, the senses, and the intelligence. Lust has, that's directly the words of the Gita, lust has seated itself in these 3 locations. Therefore, nothing you do is entirely pure until this lust is rooted out from each of these 3 locations that it's infected. You can see it like an infection that's got multiple organs in your body. You've got to get it out of all of them. When our intelligence has been contaminated by lust, we make choices. And of course, that's the purpose of intelligence, discrimination, decision-making. We make choices to further sense gratification. When our mind is contaminated with lust, we start we get fixed, because it's the mind. Mind is the repository of all thoughts. We hold on to those thoughts that are centered around sense gratification. When the senses are contaminated, the senses go naturally to sense objects of all different types, whether or not they will be useful for me or not. People who are heavily into sense gratification, they'll eat abominable things, they'll drink disgusting things, they'll do sinful things to satisfy their senses. So unfortunately, there's no simple location. All 3 of these are contaminated. And these are the active places in your body: the senses, the mind, and the intelligence.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Prabhu.
Hari. All right, how is your program of starting to learn some verses and that side of it going? Have you started?
I'm trying, like, in this Kartik month, my first brave attempt will be to do the complete Mangala Charan.
Okay.
Even though it's not Gita's verses, but I'll be doing that on Friday, and I've been practicing it and learning it.
Okay. Nice. That's good. But make sure you do the Gita verses as well by the end of the course.
Yes.
They will give you some good strength.
Yes.
Knowledge.
Yeah. It's easier when we understand the meaning and the way the syllables are broken by Srila Prabhupada. That way it's easier. When I understand it, then it's easier to little bit remember.
Yeah, do it. Break down the verse. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha prichami tvam dharma samurichetaha, etc. Do it for every single verse. Bhoga ishvarya prasaktanam dehinosmin yatade komaram yovanam jana. It's all very graphic, very simple, very straightforward, very clear. Everything we read today was very clear, wasn't it?
Yes.
Krishna gave such clarity there on the soul, the body. One survives, one doesn't survive. In all honesty, it's not sufficient to simply go through it in one sitting like we did today. We need to now really be thinking about this for, well, forevermore now. We need to be really applying it, thinking about it through daily discussion, daily hearing. But it's so much fun. There's nothing else you could replace it with out there. No other knowledge comes close. No other philosophy comes close. Well, I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us for this session. And we'll meet again next session, next Sunday. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.
Jai.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaya vacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Prabhu.
Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.